So beginning here with question 7, now we're starting to get into really the heart and soul of the material from chapter 3, the true graphing material. So we're going to have to determine solutions to equations, and we're going to have to complete XY tables, and we're going to have to graph, and we're going to have to find equations of lines given slopes and points. This is the real material. As I said in class, those first 6 questions really are kind of warm-ups. They're the foundation upon which the true graphing material is built, right? So we looked at the X and Y axis. We identified the origin. We talked about quadrants, and we looked at determining if an ordered pair is a solution, what that means, and the like. Beginning now are the questions where you're going to have to really work some things out. So if we start here with 7, we're told to find the X and Y coordinates of point B. So looking here at the graph that was provided to the right, we can see that we have a series of points that have been plotted on a graph. Now, one of the nice things about my math lab and taking test number 5 on the computer is that you have some options here to either enlarge or to zoom out, make the graph smaller depending on what your preference is. And if you're anything like me, I have a hard time seeing detail on these graphs, whether it's on paper or the computer for that matter. But what's nice now is that we can actually use the zoom in feature to make this graph as big as we need to help us identify some of these details. So all we have to do, we've been given again a whole bunch of points here that have been plotted. Looks like points A through G, so a series of points, and all we have to do is identify the ordered pair for point B. So first things first, let's actually how about find point B on our graph, and it looks like point B is right here. So we want to identify what is the ordered pair of that point. And we talked earlier in the practice tests about the origin, right? And we know that the origin is right smack dab in the center of where the x-axis and the y-axis meet. And we said that the origin has the ordered pair 0, 0. And it's called the origin because all points originate from this 0, 0 point on the graph. So what they're asking us is, well, how do we get from the origin to point B? How do we describe the x, y of point B? So let's go ahead and talk about it. If we know we're starting here and we're asked to get to B, well, did we have to move left or right any on the x-axis? No, it doesn't look like it, right? We didn't shift left to get to point B, and we don't have to shift right to get to point B. So when we are finding the x, y of point B, since we didn't have to shift left or right any from the origin, we can go ahead and say that the x component, the x coordinate of point B is 0. But how about shifting on the y-axis? Do we have to shift up or down any? Yeah, it does look like we're going to be making some sort of vertical shift. In this case, we're going to shift up 1, 2, 3, and finally 4. So we shifted 4 units up on the y-axis, and so we say then to get from the origin to point B, we have to shift up 4 units. And so there we have it. We have the ordered pair for point B is 0, 4. So that's what we have to type in as our answer. And just be careful here because the computer is asking you to type an ordered pair, which means you need everything here. You need the parentheses, you need the comma, and of course you need the x coordinate and the y coordinate. If you're missing any of those elements, if you're missing opening the point with a pair of parentheses, or you don't close, or you don't use a comma, the computer is going to mark it wrong. So please make sure you're diligent about following directions and being detail oriented. So here we have the ordered pair for B is 0, 4, and of course that is inside a set of parentheses, and there's our answer for number 7. But before we move on, let's just take a second to maybe get some additional practice here, and let's identify how about 2 points? How about let's identify what the ordered pair is for F, and let's identify what the ordered pair is for, how about A? All right. So if we want to identify what the ordered pair is for point F, which is down here on our graph, again, we know that an ordered pair is going to be inside a set of parentheses. The x and the y are separated by a comma, and we always begin at the origin. So if we want to get to point F from the origin, what sort of vertical and horizontal shifting has to take place? Well, remember, we always shift either left or right first. We always take into consideration the x movement. So to get from the origin to point F, it looks like we're going to have to shift to the right 1 unit. So we would say then that F has an ordered pair of 1 for the x. And after we make our shift to the right, how many units are we either rising or falling? Well, in this case, we have to fall a certain number of units. So let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So to get from the origin 0, 0 to point F, we had to move right 1 unit and then fall -4 units. So the point F has the ordered pair 1, comma, -4. And if this is what they were asking, this is the ordered pair that you would type in as your answer. How about point A? Again, we want to determine how do we get from the origin to point A. So if we're always starting at the origin, 0, 0, how many units do we have to shift either left or right? And how many units do we have to shift up and down? Well, we know that an ordered pair is always inside a set of parentheses. The x is separated from the y by a comma, so we've got our template here ready to go. So to get from the origin to A over here, we have to shift to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So there was a horizontal shift of 5 to the right. And how many units up? Well, in this case, we only had to go up 1 unit, so the y coordinate is 1, and there we have it. Point A is identified by the ordered pair 5, 1. And we could, of course, do that for any of the other remaining points, depending on what question you are presented on the test in class. All right, but there it is, question number 7.